sure what I was getting into when I started reading Love Does by Bob Goff. The only thing that I knew about the book was that a lot of people had purchased it and a lot of people had thoroughly enjoyed the book. My guess is that the book had something to do with love. I was hoping that it was going to focus on God's love for us and how in turn we should love others. Maybe the book is an exposition on 1 John 3:16. This is how we have come to know love. He has laid down his life for us. We should also lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. And that is, in a way, what Bob Goff gives us. A book that, if I had to describe it in one word, the word would be delightful. The book was fun to read. Now, Love Does is not an exposition on 1 John 3:16. He doesn't quote the verse to my memory, and I don't really remember him quoting a single verse of the Bible throughout the entire book. But Bob does illustrate the love of God for us and the love that we should have for others through story after story from his own life. For me, what Love Does really is that it is 31 sit-down conversations with your favorite elder from your church. Just imagine that you are struggling with something in your own life, and so you go to have a conversation with one of the elders in your church to ask them how God could help bring you through that situation. And instead of directly quoting a passage, that elder that you love tells you a story from his own life about how he has experienced God's love or about how he has shown God's love to others. This is kind of what Love Does is like. Bob shows us God's love through his breakups, through a painting that he loved, through a car accident. Don't go into Love Does expecting a deep exploration of 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the famous love chapter in the Bible. But dive into this book instead expecting a wide and beautiful picture of what it looks like when the love of 1 Corinthians 13 deeply impacts somebody's life and then they show it out in their behaviors toward others. The stories of this book are engaging, they are well written, they are down to earth, they are relatable to every person. I also love, one thing I love about the book is that the stories and the individual chapters are really an ideal length to sit down and read through one in a single sitting. So with 31 chapters, Love Does is a fun way to spend a month with Bob Goff and learn about how God's love has impacted him and led him to love others. My favorite quote in the book comes from a story about a woman named Lynn, who was involved with a car accident with Bob Goff, and how she kept calling on Bob and asking him for forgiveness after causing the accident. And Bob writes this about asking for forgiveness again and again. I'm glad I ran into Lynn, and I'm glad she kept calling too. It taught me something about faith. It taught me that when God is big enough and loves me enough to say he forgives me, I should actually believe him. I mean, I shouldn't keep feeling bad about all of the times I've messed up because that's ignoring what God said, just like Lynn ignored what I said. When I don't trust God's forgiveness, it's kind of like saying, I really don't believe he's that good. I would recommend this book to nearly everyone I know. I think it's a great book to get someone started who's interested in the church, who's interested to know how God could love them and what it's like being in a community where all of God's people are forgiven, accepted, and cherished, to see what God's life can do in someone else's life. This book is also wonderful for those in the church. Like I said, I felt like Bob Goff had invited me to go down and sit down and have a cup of coffee with him after church so that he could encourage me to be in the love of God during every day of my life. It was a fun book. It was well worth the time that it took to read. So I wasn't sure what to expect when I started reading Love Does, but after only a chapter or two, I was so glad that I started this book. I was so glad to learn the story of how God's love had touched the life of this one man and then used him to touch so many other lives. for the name of Jesus Christ. Please comment below if you'd like to share some of your thoughts about how God has loved you, and in turn, how you have loved others through the example of Jesus Christ. Also, take a moment to subscribe to the Rev Reads YouTube channel so you can engage in the current reading of Christian books to help you stay engaged in the powerful world of Christian literature.